Currently what I'm doing is I am bulking out the neck on this armature. The one thing that you do not want is your mold to lock into place. And the way that will happen is if you skip this step. You don't want your mold to lock because what can happen is whenever you're going to remove it from said sculpting form, you can actually snap your mold into pieces. So by doing this, this makes it to where I can remove it very easily. My name is Tyler Pasquale. As far as my profession goes, I just make stuff. What kind of stuff? Typically I make latex masks. Every once in a while, whenever I feel like it, I'll throw together a suit of armor, do some full costume, stuff like that. I do a little bit of everything, and a lot of nothing. I was very much inspired by a rock band called Gwar, Monty Python.
Amen. Right. 1, 2, 5. 3, sir. 3.
Evil Dead.
No, it was the woods themselves. They're alive, Ashley.
Like just old school 80s horror, just really cheesy kind of shit. I started training myself how to make masks whenever I was 11 years old. And at this point, I really just don't know what else to do with myself. So this is the beauty coat on here. What I'm trying to do is spread everything evenly using a brush all over, just so that you don't trap air bubbles. Once the plaster starts to thicken, then at that point I'll start building it up more and more. Although you do not want to overload your sculpture with too much plaster. What will end up happening is you'll take your mold walls off. They will fall right to the floor and you will not be happy once that happens. It probably took about 40 minutes to an hour to get those built, so you don't want to lose that time. With this, I'm doing the beauty coat, and then once the plaster starts to thicken, I'll go ahead and fill in all of my undercuts. I'll build everything up, and then over the top of that, I will start adding burlap reinforcement, and then I'll finish it off with one more layer to kind of clean it up a bit, and it'll be done. I'm not the strongest designer, I have to admit, so the way that I get started is I will have a very vague idea in my head, and I will just start throwing a clay onto an armature such as the one that I have here, and I will keep changing the anatomy up on it until it is pleasing to my eye. I mean, there's always obstacles. One of the main issues that I have is time. There's never enough of it. One thing that people do not realize about this form of art is the amount of work that actually goes into it. For example, making a mold such as the one that we are doing today, on average takes about 5 hours. Also, with sculpting, my sculptures can take anywhere from 3 to 50 hours. It's a long, tedious process, but it's something that I very much enjoy. It's very therapeutic to me, which is why I choose to stick with it. So at this point, the plaster has thickened, as you can see, which is perfect for us, because now we're going to start building this mold up. Again, try not to add too much. Just at this point, now that we are at this stage, what we can start to do is fill in the undercuts, like so, the ones that are on the sides. slowly we can start to build up our mold wall as well. Just try to make sure to get an even coat all the way around. Again, not too much in one area. After we are done with this layer, we're going to let this dry. And then we will start adding burlap that we had previously cut onto the sculpture. What that's going to do is that's going to actually reinforce our mold and make it stronger. This way we do not need to add a ton of plaster. More burlap, less plaster. After all, we want this to be nice and lightweight because, I mean, if you're anything like me, you don't want to kill your back doing something like this. Just trying to reinforce it in areas that I know is definitely going to need it. Since the nose is so tall on this mold, we will want to reinforce it like crazy because if we don't, we do run a risk of actually snapping it off, which would not be good for anybody. As you can see, I'm piling all of the plaster onto the face itself. I'm not applying any of it to my mold walls. This way I can actually go around and spread everything out. I'm going to start adding more of it to the chin. If you add a little bit of extra to this area, that is okay. It is against the actual head form. You don't have to worry about this area collapsing. However, everything on the sides, you do. I think my favorite piece that I did was a Krampus bust. And the reason that I really enjoy that piece is because it did look very realistic. It took a lot of time in order to get it done. I actually sculpted that creature 4 times before I finally settled on one that I liked. But the final piece was pretty amazing. So at this point, the first layer has cured. I'm just going over the top of it with more. Just going to build up that wall a little bit. At this point, since that first layer has fully set, what we can do is we can start adding more plaster over the top of it. Now we don't have to worry about it actually falling on us, so you're good. Man, you hear that one? If you ever do get air bubbles in your molds, I like to use epoxy. So just little epoxy tubes that you can get. You can, it comes in a tube. It's a 1-to-1 mix ratio. You just cut the size that you need, mix it together by hand, and you can actually go in and patch up your molds using that material. It's worked out very well for me. Alright, now, after we've gotten everything coated in plaster, yes, I finally made the wise decision to wear gloves. Do so, it makes life a lot easier. We are going to take squares of burlap and we are going to dip them in our plaster like so. Do not train this at all. And now, you can apply over the top of your sculpture, making sure to press everything in. We've actually got enough plaster on the mold already in some areas that we can just go ahead and add some on there that is dry and squeeze it in order to get the plaster to soak through the fabric. Like so. So again, do whatever works for you. This is my method of mold making. It works for me. It's not the best method, but again, it works. Just make sure to get nice coverage over everything. Don't forget any spots. there's been a few experiences. I think the top on my list was whenever David Brocky had flown me up to Richmond, Virginia. I got to stay with him at his house for a period of time while working for the rock group Gwar, who is, again, one of the groups that had inspired me to get started in the first place. So that was definitely a mind-blowing experience. Rest in peace to that dude. As you can see. So we are ready to move on to the next step. Okay. Just going along the edge, trying to remove the bits of plaster that have seeped over the edge as best as I possibly can. And let's hope that we did it right, because if not, we are going to spend quite a bit of time getting this cleaned up so that we can finish the back cut. We're hoping for the best here. Alright, none of that is separating in the way that I want it to, so let's hope that this works. This is our last shot. If not, we're kind of screwed. So if done properly, normally what would happen in this case is the clay wall would just separate very easily. It's not doing that, clearly. So it's going to take quite a bit of time in order to get this removed from the back. So we are going to do that now, and we will be right back with you. Currently I am working on this piece right here. This is actually a lyre, which is inspired very much by the band Slipknot and Distortions Unlimited. The original sculpture was done by Ed Edmonds, and that was something that I always really enjoyed. Something that I wanted to do my own twist on for the longest time, and I'm just now getting to it. I'm also working on a full zombie torso, so I will be completing the costume for that character here soon. And in the near future, I will be sculpting designs that will be used for a local event called Runway Horror. If you are not familiar with it, you should check out the Facebook page. It's pretty neat. So as you can see here, we have added clay pry points. The only thing that this is for is so that I can actually locate these areas with a screwdriver, a flathead, and I will be using that to separate both halves of the mold. Now, you've already seen how we completed the first half, how we added a beauty coat, the detail layer, followed up by a thickened reinforced layer with burlap, and then we finished it off with one more just to smooth everything out. So, we're going to speed up the process here because we're just repeating everything that we have done before. Sit back and enjoy. And that is pretty much it. As you can see, we have the back half of the mold just about completed. It's a little shiny because it needs a little bit of time to cure. So we are going to let this thing cure up overnight, and we will crack it open tomorrow. The next step is to remove all of the clay that is now on the inside of this mold, and then we can start casting with latex rubber in order to make our mask. Anyways, guys, thank you for following us on this journey. I really hope that you enjoyed. You guys take it easy.